They both send delegates. I'm sorry. They both send delegates.
Or delegates. They could have sent delegates.
They gotta
too.
send their delegates.
They sent their doilies.
Hello, and welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Tyler, and this week, I guess it's 2 weeks ago, but I got to play a character that I thought up on an episode.
Woo!
I got to play the barbarian wrestler puppet named Cindy Suplex. And oh my gosh, it was everything I could have possibly thought. It was so delightful. She was so fun to play.
I'm so sad I got to miss you playing
I know.
Suplex.
Yeah,
It was kind of ridiculous, but in the best way.
Yeah, me and Sam are. I'm Sam's wished alive friend.
Well, Cindy Suplex was created on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so excited. And it wasn't that long ago, so I was excited. I got to turn that one around.
Actually
relatively
turn and
quickly.
burn it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Ryan. I also made a character for Charles's campaign. It's like a weird kineticist barbarian, and I'm not sure if it's good or not.
TBD.
I feel like kineticists are both like some of the coolest classes, but also just like there's just a lot. I haven't read through it.
There are a lot of choices.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're what, like level 6?
We're level 8.
Level 8. I just feel like I picked good things and I feel like they synergize, but then when we were actually sitting there like, okay, we're going to roll initiative and fight next time, I was like, I don't know what I do. I don't know how to play this character at all.
Yeah. It's nice being back after on your campaign doing a 20th level thaumaturge. It's really nice going to a barbarian who jumps, grapples, suplexes, grapples, throws, combat grab, suplex.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I'm like, anytime we start with anything that's like higher than 3, I'm like, oh no, it's too many things right off the bat. It's just so much easier to like build into them.
Yeah, because then you get used to the characters and
adding like one thing at a time is less overwhelming than adding like 15. But
yeah,
it's okay. I'm doing a gunslinger for that campaign, and I'm excited because I've never actually played one of those in.
We've like never had a gunslinger in our campaigns.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I made one for my Monday night group while I was still a player, but level 1 gunslingers are kind of squishy, so I had to switch. Fair. And then I became DM, so it didn't matter. It was funny though. Sam had she pulls. I'm just looking at her character sheet, and she has the Giselle as. So it's basically I go. She's a drifter, so she has the gun and sword situation. And I'm like, you have the Giselle? She goes, yeah. I don't know. It was like a D8. I'm like,
look, I looked through the list, and I was like, what can I wield one-handed? Excellent. This is a gun that you can wield one-handed in a D8.
So it's
I didn't look up what it looked
D8
like.
One. It's like a big like kind of elephant rifle that you hold under your arm, one-handed. So like it's like you can two-hand it for
it's
fatal.
It's basically a two-handed
for a
gun,
D12.
but you're one-handing it.
Yeah, so it's just.
I
like,
looked up a picture and I was like, I think that gun is 3 feet long. Oops.
It's fine.
Well, I ended up switching it out for like something that made slightly more sense.
Have you seen Tremors? Whenever I think of elephant guns, I think of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. Anyway, I'm Sam. My fun fact for this past week is in the campaign that Tyler is DMing. I remembered a name of an NPC from a year ago.
Which one did you remember?
Cubia Bonepillar.
Oh, yes.
And you were
KBP.
very impressed. And then you gave me a hero point, and it was great.
Yes.
Cubia Bonepillar?
Cubia Bonepillar.
It's a good name.
That's an adventure path name.
Yeah, he didn't make that one up.
I didn't.
It's still a good name.
But the great thing about adventure paths is you can just kind of like tie people's characters to it. So she was kind of like a one-off, just like NPC that you could deal with, but like
a sidebar basically.
Yeah, but Keisha had ties to the underworld, so I'm like, oh, she's now going to be your friend, and like she's made a lot of recurring stuff. But yeah, it's rough getting back after a year of like. Everyone's like, I do remember that. Oh, wait, what was happening?
Well, that's another hard one because we're back and we're like level 18 and I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not remember how to play this character.
Right.
So it's fine.
Cool. So before we get in to the episode, we have a couple of housekeeping things. more than normal. So reminder, you can support us on Patreon. There's a link in our show notes and also a page on our website, or you can search us at Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast on Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I wanted to say is YouTube. So when we started this podcast, we really wanted it to be podcast first.
Yep.
Partially because I am an audio editor more than a video editor. So that seemed easier. And there weren't a lot of podcasts like lore things. You can find a ton of videos, but not a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
Podcast first. So, however, we did say like, hey, let's throw our stuff on YouTube and just like let it go. You know, whatever. Yep. We can just throw the audio up there. But I feel like it does Ryan a disservice to not shout out how much his videos have come of each of our episodes. So he takes the audio after I edit it and just like does pretty good on like does a cool little video with pictures and maps and other things and they've like gotten really good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they're not amazing. And I'll be totally transparent. I don't try very hard on the not nation ones because those are like, those are really hard to like find visual reference for them anyway. But I really try for the ones where we cover nations to like put maps and NPCs if they exist. And I'm behind.
It's all good.
I'm like 3 or 4 episodes behind now.
So we're a little bit behind, but I will see things. I'm like, hey, any good YouTube content creators? And like, I really appreciate when people are like, hey, Tabletop Travel Guide's a great podcast. Please keep doing that. It really warms my heart when I see it. I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. I usually try to either like it or comment.
Tyler tries to slide into those DMs.
Try to slide into those DMs. But a lot of times it's like, oh, well, they have a podcast. They don't have a YouTube channel. But we do have a YouTube channel. And I know there are some people who only listen to us on YouTube. So, yeah, just if your friends aren't podcasters, but they are YouTubers, feel free to point them our way because we're still doing stuff there.
Put it on in the background and fall asleep with it.
Ooh.
That's what people do on YouTube these days.
Is that? Okay.
That's a thing.
I mean, I guess that's fair. Like, you could do that with TV. So, like, yeah.
It's your guided meditation for sleep.
Yeah.
Hopefully our voices will rock you
Don't
to
do
sleep.
that.
No.
Don't do that. Not that kind of podcast.
Stop it. Anyway. So, yeah. YouTube. Shout out to Ryan. Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast. Go check it out. The next thing is update on our deity draft. So,
whoop. I'm not in a worse shape, I don't think.
You're like 4 points behind, like
not
3.5.
Yeah.
So Desna was marked safe. And because I took 2/3 of the prismatic ray, she was on my team. So I have lost a character. But that puts Sam and I both at 4 deities and tied for points.
Dun, dun, dun.
So it's anybody's game. And technically, Ryan is still within 5 points of us.
I'm not mathematically eliminated.
You are not mathematically eliminated. So who could say? I think we only have a couple more weeks because I think they're doing something on like April 19th, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the same day that Taylor Swift releases her album?
That's exactly what they were thinking, I'm sure.
I actually don't know. I'm not sure if that's right or not.
I mean, Paizo, Taylor Swift, they're basically both titans in the industry.
If you looked at a Venn diagram, it's just a circle.
Yeah.
What will we do when this is done? I don't even know.
I don't know, but this has been very exciting, and thank you for coming with us. Speaking of the people who've been coming with us, our patrons who have also been doing their draft, or, I've been marking them and all that stuff. Our patron Rod is the only person with 6 deities left.
Oh my gosh.
And the only person
Rod.
with 5 deities left. Everybody else is 4 or under. So
Ooh.
I don't know what deity you made a deal with, but...
Does he secretly work for Paizo?
It's like...
Or know someone who
Insider
does?
trading. You can't do that.
He commented on one of the things like, this is how you learned I work for Paizo. Yeah, he does not work for Paizo. As far as I can tell.
We have his W-2s.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Send proof.
I'm going to need you to submit your tax returns.
Show us your tax returns, Rod. But yeah, he's definitely in the lead. But again, like ours, there's still a bunch of people who are within shooting distance for the win. So if he's not correct, who could say? He could have had just a great bracket right up until the very end.
Sure, could all fall apart.
Yeah, so we'll see. But, good job making deals with the devil, Rod. And last thing, we have a great announcement.
I'm so excited.
So our patrons knew this a little bit because we were planning it, but we are going to be at Gen Con this year.
I cannot believe we got accepted to do this.
Yes. So,
I mean, to be fair, we signed up to GM some sessions, but I'm like, who else is signing up for this? Because this seems like a big time commitment and a lot of planning.
That's
now
true.
realizing we have to start now.
So we are going to be at Gen Con. We are not big enough to have our own booth yet. maybe in a few
Not
years.
even close.
Not even close. We have a long way to go.
They're going to give us one 4x8 foot table, probably.
Yes.
Yep, that sounds correct.
But we are going to be GMing. So right now, our plan is to do the campaign that we did during the River Kingdoms, which was the bounty campaign. We're going to plan that out. We have some, we're actually going to have to flesh out one of our campaigns, which is exciting. But we're going to be there. So I'm not sure when tickets go on sale for that or whatever.
Not for a while.
We did like the early sign up.
It's
and everything.
so we called it Rogues in the River Kingdoms.
Yes.
We're going to be DMing 2 of the days. I think we said Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing either 6 or 8 hours both days. Because I thought.
Because I think we're doing 4 4-hour sessions or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Because we also want to. I've never been to Gen Con, so I also want to like see the con. So the idea was all 3 of us are not all just GMing the whole time.
Yeah.
Because that would be a lot. But we are going to make Tyler's mom make us t-shirts.
Oh my God.
We're going to get swag and all that stuff. We have a while. It's August, I think.
It's 1st to the 4th because it is also my birthday.
Yeah. So
nothing I would rather do more than GM on my birthday.
So if you are already planning on going to Gen Con or not and want an excuse to meet us, sign up whenever it's coming around. We'll probably have some more details as we get closer. We're obviously several months out at the moment, but our session just got accepted last week. So
yep.
And we have no chill.
No chill.
Yeah. So if you were to go to the Gen Con website, I don't think there's anything posted yet. Eventually they will post something and it will link back to our website, tabletoptravelguide.com, where we will post. I don't think we've 100% decided if we're going to pre-gen characters or if we expect people to bring we
don't have an option for both.
Yeah, like there's lots of details we need to figure out, but we'll put more info on the website when we know more.
Yes. Anyway, long intro. That was our longest intro, but a lot of housekeeping. So with that, we will shift it over to Sam.
Woo! All right, so as far as we are aware, we didn't misspeak anything last session.
I don't know. We recorded that episode 3 times, so.
It's true. So we might have, but we don't think we did.
We're a little loopy.
So we get to jump right into today's topic, which is the Hold of Belkzen.
Orcs.
I had a lot of fun researching this one, so I'm excited to talk about it.
When Sam first did it, she's like, I have to do the Belkzen Orcs, and we're like, it'll be fine.
I was just like not really sure what I was getting into, and I was like, I don't totally know what's going on up here.
Orcs.
So having read through it though, it was fun. At the top, I'm just gonna let you know my references because I will forget to do it later. I used the remastered player core, Belkzen Hold of the Orc Hordes. Say that 5 times fast. That is a campaign setting. And then for like 5 seconds, I pulled some stuff from Rule of Fear, which is the Ustalav adventure pack.
Perfect.
So Sam was like, I need a book, Rule of Fear. And I'm like, for Belkzen?
I'm like, look,
I used that 2 episodes ago.
2 sentences from it to confirm something.
Fair.
So I'm using it as a reference. So before we jump into the location of the orcs, I did just want to do a overview of the orcs as a race. This is the information that's coming from the remaster, so this is all up to date. Just so that we know kind of who these people are as a people group before we delve into their history.
Sure.
Nice.
So some of it is going to be, information that you are all probably aware of, but some of it was fun stuff that I just liked reading about. So in general, orcs are tall and powerfully built. Typically, their skin is a shade of green, but this can vary depending on the environment. Orcs reach adulthood at 17, and their average lifespan, not counting dying in combat, is 60. So these are...
yeah, that's pretty good.
Not like super long-lived, but if you're not, dying in combat, you might see...
That's humanish.
Medieval humanish. Yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah. When we think of orcs, I want you to keep 2 words in mind. And those words are fidelity and honesty.
Okay.
As we kind of think about the concepts of their society moving forward. Orc culture teaches that people are shaped by the challenges they survive. And the most worthy survive the most hardships.
Okay.
So orcs who live a long time and have great triumphs command immense respect. We can think of this tenet of society as you are the scars that shape you.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the nuance here because I think the problem sometimes with orcs is we get into like a stereotype of like we're just murder hoboing for funsies, and like that's it, and there's
big
no
dumb
depth to it.
murdery. Like you're amazed how their society even functions.
That is the
all it
40K orc in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yes. So here we're pulling in a little bit of variation to this, which I think gives it more depth and then also makes it more interesting to either play an orc or be a part of those societies. So in their societies, dying in glorious combat is preferred over death of old age or illness.
Okay.
We're not into those mundane deaths.
That's fair.
I don't see that as a red flag.
No.
No, you know. Orc life is typically violent and chaotic, though.
Yeah.
With their communities valuing pain and glory, and then building societal structures as a hierarchy where power is what comes out on top.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, like, we're not like totally throwing away like the violent stereotypes, but we're just kind of putting them in a context that makes sense for the society.
Well,
Sure.
it's putting them in the context that makes them a society.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, and not just a faceless green wave.
yeah, you're not just like, what are they doing? They're killing each other and people? Why?
We don't know, you know. They do worship some of the main deities, so Lamashtu and Rovagug are common.
Sure.
You know, violence and beating stuff up.
Sure.
However, there's also worship of Sarenrae, though, because
Oh.
the tenets of fire and redemption and glory also appeal to orcs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sure.
So it just kind of depends on like what type of combat and violence you're getting into. With the remaster, we get more things with edicts and anathemas. So I did pull in like a couple of the common ones.
Okay.
So popular edicts are things like become stronger, share knowledge that you won through pain, destroy the undead. Which, ooh,
Huh.
hello. And then popular anathemas, accept defeat without proof of strength. And then this one I thought was really interesting. Reshape or reanimate a creature into something lesser.
Oh.
Huh. Interesting.
Which, like, I think I'm like, okay, so maybe we could be talking about like the undead there, right? Is like I'm taking a corpse
Yeah.
and
Or,
making it
like-
into something that lesser than it was, but like,
Or like, what if you like, maybe if you like reincarnated somebody into like a not as
I don't
cool
know.
of an orc? I don't know.
Yeah.
but also I feel like you could think about it, and I would be interested to see like how this could play out. But like, would that also be like, I broke a sword, but I'm now using it as like something else? Like, is that creating something into
Well,
something lesser?
It says a creature into something lesser. So I don't, unless they.
That's
I don't
that's
know.
true.
Unless it's a creature sword.
Ooh.
I don't know, it's sentient.
My intelligent sword is now an intelligent dagger. It is kind
Yeah,
of
so
sad.
I don't know. I was
Yeah.
interested in that, and I'm not exactly sure how
Yeah.
it plays out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
So that's our orc primer. So these are our people. And now we are going to jump into history. Or rather, we're going to jump into prehistory, because we have to start somewhere where the Hold of Belkzen does not actually exist yet.
Sure.
That's fair.
Some of these histories are things that we have talked about when we've talked about other areas and other peoples. So I'm not going to spend tons of time on parts of this, but we are going to go through it as a refresher.
Fair.
So before Earthfall, the orcs were subterranean. They were part of Narvoth, the uppermost layer of the Darklands, and they did not have any experience in magic or metalwork. They were just frequently in conflict with the other Darkland races for resources and territory.
Okay.
They weren't really they didn't have anything going on that was really pulling them out on top of those.
Sure.
So yeah, then Earthfall happens, and that's where we start to see things shift and change. This is when the dwarves start to push up to the surface in the quest for the sky, which we talked about when we talked about the dwarves.
Yep.
That's right. You're just pushing up like dwarves are in our house now.
Yes, so the orcs get caught between the dwarves and the surface, and this sudden clash of societies dramatically changes the trajectory of the orcs as a people group.
Makes
Mhm.
sense.
The orcs are now exposed to magic and metalwork in this conflict, and they start to co-opt the dwarven knowledge of those things to be able to fight back better, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, then the dwarves keep pushing up, and the orcs are pushed out into the surface as well.
Sure.
So they first appear on the surface of Golarion in negative 5102.
Yep. Long time ago.
Yep, way back. This is after Earthfall by a couple centuries, but the land is still not great.
Yeah.
Very
Right.
hospitable.
Things aren't great. at the
No.
moment.
But orcs are tough, guys, and life on the surface is still better than life in the Darklands.
Yay.
Yeah, that's fair.
So they're like, cool, well, you know what? We're going to make this work. The orcs refer to this moment in history as the sacking, referring
Oh.
to the time when they migrated to the surface
Hmm.
and were able to be dominant over the surface races.
Oh.
Because they came from the Darklands. So while this land is rough, it's not as rough as that. So they were able to kind of like pillage their way through and come out on top.
It's like we just came from the professional sports team and then ran into the JV league
Yes.
of high school, and we're like, oh yeah, we can do this.
Yeah, so they view this time period as their first golden age
Okay.
of existence.
When everything was great.
Yes.
It is
We
funny.
just ran everybody over. We popped out on the surface and we're like, excellent, we're on top.
It is funny how you're like, most things golden age, it's like when the kingdom is built and prosperous and peaceful, and the orcs are like, we were able to beat everybody up, and it was great.
So they're like the orcs are like, huh, this place is great.
Like, ooh, we're top of the food chain.
I can
like-
see the sun.
I just imagine they're like looking at the sun while like,
Oh, wait,
holding
no,
in-
guys, remember, they
Oh,
can't see the sun yet.
that's true.
We haven't gotten there.
Oh, sure.
because
sure.
we're after Earthfall. We're in that weird, like,
volcanic area.
volcanic, cloudy, no big sun yet.
But there's
Okay.
no rocks above our heads, so
That's
it's a
true.
golden age.
Yes. So then, in negative 4987, then the dwarves finally get up here. They pop into the surface, and they're like, oh, the orcs are here. We didn't actually kill them all. We just pushed them up out of the ground. Oh.
That's still baffled. The dwarves are like, I do not know what I expected.
When you
I
don't-
displaced a whole people group, and they went up.
What do you mean you're here? You didn't just disappear.
When you don't text your one friend, but you see them like when you're out hitting the bars. It's like, oh, hey, hey, buddy.
So they show up and they reignite their conflict all over again.
Okay.
Sure.
This is the time period where the dwarves are then building the Sky Citadels.
Mhm.
So they have control over those big fortresses. The orcs then hold command over much of the land in between the Sky Citadels, but they can't overtake them.
Sure.
So the two people groups are kind of continuing on at a stalemate at this point. So fast forward to negative 4294.
Okay.
So we've
So-
moved
Yeah.
quite a few
700
centuries.
years,
Yep.
So the impact winter that has been blocking Golarion's sun starts to clear.
Mm.
This is where it becomes important that we did not have sun yet, which in turn raises the surface temperatures and ends the permanent twilight on the surface. This is bad news for the orcs, who were an underground people group, and their eyesight really struggles to adjust to the change in light.
Oh, okay.
That's fair. But weren't the dwarves also underground people?
I'm not sure exactly why it doesn't impact the dwarves, but
Yeah.
it does impact the orcs.
Yeah. Huh.
Like
Okay.
I don't know if that's just like a
Maybe.
societal adaptation.
Torag just
that
helped
took
out, called in
longer.
a favor. I don't
Dang
know.
a Torag. He's like, here's some good eyesight. Gave everybody glasses.
But then this issue for the orcs gives the dwarves an advantage in the conflict
Okay.
because the orcs are all now like, oh, the sun is very bright and I
Yeah.
was not prepared.
Sure.
Maybe the dwarves all just made sunglasses. I don't know. They're crafters. So
That'd be kind of
That
awesome.
seems on brand.
Quick, dwarven shades.
that's my headcanon. I like that one.
I like it.
So then the dwarves are able to push the orcs out of the lowlands and into the hills and mountains. The orcs, once again, being very adaptive, figure out a new way to live. They move into dense forests and surface caves, and they start living a more nocturnal life.
Sure.
So, like, I really can't say it enough. Man, they are resilient.
Yeah.
Well, and like, they were, for the most part, maybe not happy, but like, they were just chilling in their caves until they got pushed out. It's like, so they're basically just having to kind of deal with whatever people keep throwing at them.
Mm-hmm.
The book does not state it explicitly, but my assumption is then as we have more generations that are used to the sun, we lose this, like, sun aversion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
think that's a part of the current
No,
character build.
I think
so.
orcs have low light and could possibly get dark vision,
Depending on the ancestry.
depending on the
feat.
ancestry. But yeah, so that.
But they don't
probably
get
keep-
a deficit in
Yeah,
the sun
yeah, they
anymore.
keep some
Yeah.
of their. They're not vampires.
Yes. So I don't know exactly how many like centuries it takes to get to that
Mhm.
point, but beyond this point, it's not mentioned again.
Okay.
So my assumption is that over the next few generations, it just gets better and,
Sure.
and orcs are able to not just hang out in the dark all the time. So fast forward again by about 500 years. In negative 3708, an orc warlord by the name of Belkzen,
Ooh.
Oh.
I wonder where this is going.
Go on.
Belkzen, the orc, unites the orc tribes of north central Avestan and starts to fight back against the dwarves. This united force is able to break through the defenses of the Sky Citadel of Koldakar in what is known as the Battle of Nine Stones.
Okay.
Belkzen takes over the city and names it Urgir, which is first home in the Orc language.
Aw,
I know.
okay. That's
I'm
kind of
like,
nice.
We just wanted a home.
Everyone else is like, "Oh, Urgir. I wonder what type of terrible name is that." And they're like, "We got a first house, guys."
I know. I'm like, at this point, I'm like rooting for the Orcs. I'm like, yeah, you take the dwarf home because they kicked you out of yours.
I feel like we've kind of been on Orc side most of Avestan because people keep trying to mess with them, and they're like, "Stop it!"
Yep.
And they keep pushing
Leave
them
us
back.
alone.
So I'm always Team Orc.
Yeah. So this marks the start of another golden age for the Orcs. They refer to this point in history as the Reckoning.
That's a good name.
Unfortunately, it's not as long of a golden age as the Sacking was. Rather quickly after defeating the Orcs, the tribes that had united together start fighting amongst themselves.
But that's not an Orc thing.
Yeah.
How many times does that happen in the podcast? Like, we won, and we immediately
The
turn each
second
other.
we don't have a common enemy, we need to make enemies within.
Yeah.
So in response to this, the Orc warlord Belkzen institutes the laws of Belkzen. He's great with naming.
I like it.
Look, he won, okay? He can name it what he wants.
It's true. It's true. So this law, the big thing about it is it says any orc who kills another orc will be sacrificed to Rovagug along with 10 of his tribe mates.
Brutal.
Oh, dang. You
Brutal.
and 10 of your closest friends.
This is like opposite decimation.
Well, because,
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to like preserve a people group. So he's like, if you all just keep fighting amongst yourselves, like that's not helpful. So
Sure.
don't kill each other.
Well, and also, that's a really good like way to keep them in check, too, because like I would be real clear with all my buddies. Like, you better not mess around because I don't want to die because you're an idiot.
Yeah, and you presumably don't want your whole tribe to get wiped out in one fell swoop,
Right.
too. Unfortunately, this doesn't last. When Belkzen dies, or mysteriously disappears, according to some accounts, we just don't really know what happened to him. In negative 3698, control of the territory, which at this point has expanded to include a lot of Varisia, Lastwall, Ustalav, Nurmathas, and Multhun.
Oh, so this
Dang.
place is huge.
Yeah.
At this point in time, it's very, very big. So at the time of his death, it's divided among his 7 sub-chiefs,
Okay.
who almost immediately at his death go to war with each other to fight for the land.
Yep.
So the problem is so then they're all fighting again. And in about 200 years, so negative 3470, most of Belkzen's territorial conquests have been lost.
Sure.
And the Orcs, once again, only control the land, which is known as today as the Hold of Belkzen.
Sure.
With some shrewd battle tactics and some forethought, we can take our current land and shrink it by 70%.
I like the way you think.
That is basically what happens. So now we are in the Hold of Belkzen as it stands.
Mhm.
So current territory, and then this is the history of the current territory.
Okay.
Yes.
So the land that is currently the Hold of Belkzen has been held by the Orcs for the past 8 centuries.
Okay.
Nice.
Which pretty solid, right?
Dwarven architecture.
Right. So since the OG Belkzen, many powerful orc warlords have risen up to take the mantle of Belkzen, but none of them have been as successful at uniting all of the tribes as the original Belkzen.
Sure.
There's been some unity, but no one's really been able to accomplish it for more than a few decades at a time. Other people, though, have had more success. Namely, the Whispering Tyrant.
Hey, buddy.
Friend of the pod.
Who we just talked about, but he's controlling the Orcs of Belkzen and their territory from 3202 to 3827.
He had a good run.
So he has a good run. Not an orc, though. So he's, popped into his city there in 3827. Notably, in 3828, that's when the Sun Wall is constructed. So Lastwall is making those fortifications.
Yep, they're putting the wall up.
Yep. So not a lot is happening. The Orcs are kind of going back to orking, back to their tribes, nomadic, living here in this time period. And then, notably, in 4043, Orc tribes are currently invading Tamravenna, which is what is now the province of Canterwall in Ustalav.
Okay.
But that's right on the border. So where Belkzen and Ustalav meet, it's this province. They're invading. The Count of Tamravenna, Count Endachi.
Endachi?
Endachi? The Count hires a mercenary from Ustalav named Kazavan. They don't give a ton of detail about how the Count gets linked up with Kazavan, but the thing to note here is that the Count prays to Zon-Cathon for aid.
I don't want
Who's a cool dude.
I don't want anybody.
Right.
I don't want that prayer answered at all. Like anybody who shows up from Zon-Cathon, I'm like, please leave.
And somehow Kazavan is the answer to this request to aid the forces of Ustalav who are fighting Belkzen.
Cool.
So Kazavan comes in, defeats the Orcs, and then decides he wants to stay and continue to be in power.
Great.
So he builds a fortress in the Kodar Mountains, which is the mountain range that's right at that border of Ustalav and Belkzen.
Yeah.
The castle fortress is named Scarwall. And fun fact, it sits on an island in a crater lake in an extinct volcano.
That is so metal.
It is the most metal of, like, villain areas. So naturally, Ustalav and Lastwall, who are the closest to Belkzen, are shocked by this turn of events.
Uh-huh.
They both send delegates.
Or delegates. They could have sent delegates.
They gotta send their delegates.
They sent their doilies.
Not sure what kind of message that sends. Anyway, they both send delegates to Kazavan.
Which is like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, it's like, hey buddy, you just decided that you were gonna like rule over this area that you helped us liberate, and that seems like an interesting tactic. So naturally, he flays the delegates and sends their animated skins back to Lastwall and Ustalav and says, submit or die.
Oh, did not get that part.
Ooh.
So the skins walk back.
Oh,
it's
God.
real weird.
Don't like that.
No.
On brand for Zon-Cathon, though.
Seriously, never pray to Zon-Cathon. Sorry,
Right.
buddy.
Yeah. So Kazavan in this time period is counted as one of the leaders to unify the orc tribes. Not for like a huge amount of time, but like, yeah, okay, buddy. So then in 4051, the Count that we talked about, he's like, okay, I hired this dude. I'm going to take care of it. Like, this was not how this was supposed to go. He leads an army to unseat Kazavan, but unfortunately is defeated and murdered.
Ooh.
Big whoopsie.
Yep.
However, Kazavan is eventually defeated in 4063, and at this defeat, it is revealed that he's been a blue dragon the whole time.
Incredible.
Just looking like a human.
What up, buddy?
I know.
Was he bored? Did the dragon not have anything better to do?
That explains like wanting to like hang out in a volcano a lot more. Like,
I mean, I guess, but like,
I like the heat.
it gets cold up here. I get chilly. I love it. That's awesome.
and so this is where I had to like pop into Rule of Fear for a hot second, but like there's literally 2 sentences on him, and I'm like, we're just gonna drop that he was a blue dragon and then say nothing else.
End
and
of
the
story.
book says nothing else.
No further questions, obviously.
Okay. So yep, he united the orcs.
Incredible.
There you go.
All right, so after him, we're back to the orc tribes ruling themselves and not really doing a whole lot of unity. However, in 4237, the orc hordes are able to overwhelm the Sun Wall, and then they are able to retake Urgir.
Hey.
Oh, didn't know they'd lost it.
Briefly in some of these conflicts. So they're able to...
It comes and goes.
They're able to take it back.
Cool.
And then really for the next 300 years, fighting between Belkzen and Lastwall continues because Lastwall's bored and is like, well, we'll just fight the orcs, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, 4517, we get to the point where Lastwall's current border is established because they've been kind of going back and forth. They're doing skirmishes. They have different things that are pushing in different places. So it takes until that point for the current border to be established. And then in 4692, so much closer in recent history, we have an orc named Grask Oldith.
Grask Oldith.
Yes. He takes control of the powerful Empty Hand tribe
Okay.
and also the city of Urgir. Now, Oldith, he thinks a little bit differently than a lot of orcs.
Mm.
He is dissatisfied with the way the orcs have been living for centuries and realizes that if they don't change, their society is not going to progress.
Okay.
So he sees the unity and the economic systems of other races, and he wants those cultural benefits for the orcs.
He wants those bennies.
Love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not necessarily out to make the orcs like less chaotic, but he thinks some more advanced infrastructure is going to like keep them relevant.
Infrastructure
I
week.
knew you were going to say that.
So I love the tactic here. So he sees all this and he's like, okay, I'm not sure how to do it though. So he sends half-orcs out into the societies beyond Belkzen and tasks them with bringing back smart people from other areas.
Okay. I like it. Okay.
He's like, bring me back the like knowledgeable people who know how to do this.
Yeah.
Generally, the kidnapping tactic part of this isn't super great,
well,
though.
Okay, I don't totally support the kidnapping part of that.
Hey, look, we are gathering the smartest minds around. How are you gathering
we
them?
are conscripting, is what
I
we're
will give
doing.
you 50 gold to come back to Belkzen with me. Well, I don't know. Put it back over his head.
So naturally, most of the captives don't really want to be helpful, or they're just not helpful in general for this.
Yeah.
But this endeavor gets him one. He gets Belzig the Pathfinder, who hilariously is not happy with his bosses in Absalom. So he sees a growth opportunity here working with Oldith.
He's just waiting for the day that he gets kidnapped and taken off to a magical far-off land. Gets put bag over his head, goes to Belkzen. Close enough.
I've been waiting for this day.
Whisk me away to your magical castle.
So over the next 2 years, Oldith is working with Belzig, gathering knowledge, figuring out what he wants to do. And in 4702, he implements the first of many reforms as ruler of Urgir.
Okay.
And brings a different semblance of civilization to the city. Firstly, he opens the city to members of any race.
Okay.
And creates a token system where outsiders can pay one of the orc tribes for the privilege of traveling within the borders.
Okay.
So this system brings in trade,
Yeah.
but it also starts to acclimate orcs to the idea of making money from something other than raiding.
Yeah.
Ah,
That's fair. Okay.
Capitalism.
Yeah, so we're bringing in some different things.
Great equalizer.
He also sends out his half-orc diplomats, and the book literally has diplomats in quotes, to find merchants who might be willing to relocate to Urgir. In exchange, he offers to very lightly tax the merchants and guarantees their personal safety within the city.
Oh.
So,
And he
like,
did not kidnap them?
He did not, no.
Okay.
He does. I really like his use of the half-orcs. Like, hey, you are half part of some other societies, so people would be more amenable to you talking to them about some of these things. So I feel like there's lots of just very smart choices that he's making here.
Yeah, okay.
And then sure, he's offering them like, hey, I'm not going to tax you very much. I just want you to come sell your stuff here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
He also gathers some of his smartest warriors and inducts them into a new elite unit that he calls the Closed Fist.
Ooh.
It's a good name.
I know, right?
They're like the open hand, the closed fist.
So these orcs become like a type of police force in Urgir. They enforce his new rules and help to educate the greater orc population.
Okay.
Cool.
I love it.
So this brings us into current day Urgir, which I found super interesting as a city. So obviously it was a sky citadel.
Mhm.
So it was built by the dwarves for what they wanted,
Mhm.
but then it's been like retrofitted by the orcs.
It's their home. It's
Yeah.
their first home.
First home.
I know. I'm like, it's great. So as the Sky Citadel was built, it was 8 concentric layers, right?
Mhm.
The orcs are only using 4. The 4 that are closest to the ground. The upper 4 are not currently in use because they are at most risk of earthquake damage, and they are the least structurally sound.
That's a smart choice.
Fair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So the first level lowest to the ground. This contains the market districts. This is where our merchants are hanging out, right?
Yeah.
So this is the home for any non-orcs in the city, which the vast majority are merchant people.
Yeah.
The second level, so one up here, we're going to have the residential neighborhoods for the orcs that live here. Hilariously, there is also a sinkhole at the western edge that appeared several years ago and swallowed chunks of 3 tiers of the city.
Oh, dang.
no.
It is accessed here for use as a refuse pit.
Oh,
I
well,
mean, the
So-
dwarves not have sewage?
you gotta make
plumbing.
lemonade.
I don't know.
Okay.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Life hands you lemons.
Yeah.
Right, there you
okay.
go. The third level is artisan workshops and industrial buildings. So all the smiths for like arms and armor are here. This level also has the headquarters of the Closed Fists.
Okay. Cool.
And then the fourth level is the most interesting. This one is the home of the Sharpened Axe, one of the 2 fighting academies in the city, and the Black Tower, founded by practitioners of the ancient art of Belkzen war alchemy.
Oh.
I'm
Which
in.
I
That
don't
sounds-
totally know what
That's
that is, but
pretty
it sounds neat.
What is that? That sounds awesome.
War alchemy? Ooh.
Yeah. So I mention Urgir because it's the most civilized part of Belkzen.
Yeah.
Sure.
Belkzen has a lot of other sites in it,
Uh-huh.
but the other orc tribes are also a little bit more nomadic. It's
Mhm.
not quite as stable. So there are other settlements and things in Belkzen, but Urgir is going to be our main kind of hub if you wanted to go to a city.
Yeah.
Sure.
Everything else is a little bit more dangerous. And that is a brief history of Belkzen.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
And I think if we went back and did like deep dives, I would probably pull out some of those other like random places that you can go.
Yeah.
But I was just getting too far down the rabbit hole, like with different things.
Anything else.
So
So easy to get.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it. I love Belkzen. I love Grask.
Well, and like I don't know, the orcs have just I feel like they play a part in so many other
mhm.
like countries, and not in like basically in a way of like the other countries are just like trying to conquer them for
Yeah.
reasons. So it's like cool to see them, have their society and do their things. Obviously, they have like they raid as well, so it's not
You
completely.
can't turn around in a day. It's
Yeah,
okay.
they're not the Kelids, but
Yeah.
But also just leave our dudes alone, man. Like let them
Yeah.
live their lives.
Let them have their home.
right.
Yeah,
First home.
Step off, dwarves.
Nice.
I like it.
Cool. Well, thank you, Sam. And we will take a break, hear a ad from our sponsors, and be back with a campaign and character.
Breaking news! Last week we brought you information that Belkzen had been kidnapping individuals from surrounding territories. We have an important update to these events. A representative from Belkzen has been in touch to announce that these were not kidnappings, instead they were recruiting measures. Belkzen is in search for learned individuals who are willing to contribute to their cultural renaissance. Should anyone be willing to volunteer for these positions, the representatives have offered dual citizenship and free travel passes.
Hey, welcome back. And we go over to Ryan for a campaign.
Yeah. So we're going to call this Golarion's Got Talent.
Oh my gosh.
Can't wait to see how this relates to orcs.
I'm very curious where we go with Belkzen.
So growing up, my family watched a lot of American Idol.
yeah.
And
Sure.
I am tangentially aware of like Eurovision
Yeah.
and they're like X Factor, and there's like a million of these shows, right?
Oh, there's too many now.
The Voice and
Dance.
whatever.
There's a dancing one, right?
So You Think You Can
Oh, yeah.
Dance is fantastic.
We do like that one.
Yes, you guys actually probably know this better than I do, but I just know this is this general, it's a general like sphere of
Yeah.
performance-based reality shows.
Fair.
Sure.
So the way I'm going to frame this is in Absalom, the White Grotto, which is the preeminent bardic college in Absalom, they have called for a worldwide bardic competition to figure out who the best bards are, who's got the best nation of bards, or
Excellent.
who the best bardic trope is.
Oh no.
The rules of this competition are that every nation or territory will hold their own local qualifier before sending the best of their nation to Absalom to compete.
The Eurovision.
I think that's how Eurovision
Yeah,
It
is.
literally is, yeah.
Okay. So, and again, I have very, very brief checkup. Eurovision, each country kind of made their own rules, right? They're kind of like, yeah, we can do it this way or that way. Like,
Well,
there's no hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like each country has to bring a song, and how they decide on that song, I think, is up to the country.
Okay. The way I framed this part then, there's a slimy bard. I didn't name this bard. This bard looks around and he's thinking like, well, I probably can't, like if I go compete in Taldor, I'm not going to be successful. If I go compete in Cheliax, I'm not going to be successful. What if I went to Belkzen and set up the competition and then entered the competition with myself and my band? I'm a shoo-in to win my own competition.
Great.
There's no possible way this goes wrong.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, he doesn't know that the Orcs actually have a proud musical and performance tradition.
Oh.
And so he like convinces the Ugyr government to set up this competition. And what ensues are multiple bardic tropes of orcs showing up who are actually decent, who are going to compete in this competition.
So are we, as the players, are we the troops of bardics?
You are one of the troops. So
Yeah.
I would have the players, you all have to come in having pre-agreed what your band name is, basically. What each of you do as part of the band, what your instrument or performance act is. I would give free archetype. Everyone would get bard as a free
Yeah, of
archetype.
course.
Sure.
But of course, orc performance art is not just singing or instrument.
Sure.
There's fighting.
Mm.
There's storytelling. There are feats of athleticism. There's all kinds of stuff going on that the orcs consider important for their own bards to have. So according to the rules of their competition, it's not just a singing competition.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's part one. Hopefully the players win part one.
Oh my gosh.
And then part two of this campaign would be you go to the big city, kids. You go to Absalom and you compete in the competition.
You have like
This
that
is hilarious.
montage of like people going to Vegas for the first time and you see all the lights and you're just starstruck.
I had this weird vision of, I thought of this at like 11 o'clock at night last night. And I had this weird vision of in American Idol, there's like the shots of people getting the tickets and they're like freaking out.
Yes.
And I imagine like
for the
5 orcs with like pieces of paper.
We're going to Absalom.
We did it! So there's your setup.
Oh, God.
There's your setup. Golarion's Got Talent.
Hey, we're going to step in a little bit. And as you heard, or as you started to hear, right at the end there, my mic started clipping out a little bit, and Sam's mic started clipping out a little bit. And what started out as a small clip turned into just unlistenable.
And there was no saving it.
Yes. So we figured instead of doing the Gravelands Cursed episode and trying to record everything else, the fact that we got through most of, or all of the story and most of the campaign, we figured we would just wrap it up, call it a day.
You didn't miss much. I just, considered all the different mechanics for Golarion's Got Talent.
Yes.
And how we might do that. So we'll leave that up to your imaginations and see what you could come up with.
Yeah. So here's going to be the wrap up. So sorry for the technical mishaps. We'll figure out what's going on. But thanks again for everybody coming along with us. We did give this one a score of 2 out of 10 empty hands.
Closed
Closed
fists.
fists.
Jeez.
You're
It's
right.
been 24 hours and Tyler has already forgotten the measurements.
I just remember the score. So yeah, we gave it a score of 2 out of 10 because it was not a great place to be, even though
We did decide that I upsold it a little bit and maybe focused on maybe the more positive things and then didn't give a lot of attention to maybe the scarier places. So if you thought that Urgir sounded really good, great. That was the only good place.
Yes, so Sam would be a great PR department for Belkzen. But yeah, so we'll leave it here. Thanks again to all of our listeners. We appreciate you and listening through all of our episodes. Until next time, safe travels.